You're watching the first News Hour debate on Times Now Super Prime Time.
Well, joining us tonight from Chennai is Aryama Sundaram, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court. Sushant Sareen of IDSA is on the top right of your screen. We have with us tonight Mr. Uttam Khobragade, father of Devyani Khobragade. Uttamji, good evening. Thank you. This is the first time you're on the Newshour tonight. Glad to have you. Dr. Sheshadri Chari heads the Foreign Affairs Cell of the BJP. Martina Vandenberg, we have two guests from Washington. Ray Locker is back with us. He's National Security Editor of USA Today. Ray, good to have you back. And Martina Vandenberg is President of the Human Trafficking Pro Bono Legal Cell. First question I'd like to put to you, Martina. You know, all that has emerged now, there has been considerable time for America to understand the deep mistake it has made and the hurt it has caused. Now, I'm not going to get into why no action is being taken against those people who have carried this out and then the people who've justified it in ridiculous ways. But do you think in retrospect, this super cop attitude of America in interfering in Indian law, flying out, Sangeeta Richards' family, not showing any respect for the legal system in India, interfering in legal law despite pending criminal cases in India, and then, as Preet Bharara has done, gone on to justify it. Has it given the American authorities time to reflect on the massive mistakes they are making, one after the other, in their handling of this case?
I would actually disagree with you about mistakes, in the sense that the focus has been on the procedure here, where the focus really needs to be on the treatment of the housekeeper, the treatment of the domestic worker who was brought to the United States under false pretenses. And the allegations here are very serious allegations of lying to the U.S. government and fraud. Now, this all happens in a larger context, and the larger context is widespread exploitation, labor exploitation, and even trafficking of domestic workers on special visas working for diplomats and international organization employees in the United States.
No, but don't you think, Martina, that you may have a big point that what appears to me is that there is a point that Preet Bharara and the American authorities want to make. But what happens in life is that if you want to make a good point but choose a terrible example, then you end up getting it totally wrong. In your hurry to make that big point, for whatever reason, I'm not saying Preet Bharara has political ambitions so that there are some activists or NGOs who want to build their careers using examples like that. I'm not insinuating any of that, but you may want to make that point. You take up a bad example and then you hold your ground and don't apologize, you're going to mess it up. That's what's happened, hasn't it?
I have to say, this is not the first time that a consular officer has been arrested on similar charges in the United States. It is the first time that it's become an international incident.
Of course.
A few years ago, there was an Italian consular officer who was arrested. There was a Taiwanese consular officer. There is standard operating procedure.
Was the Italian officer strip searched? I'm asking you specifically. Is this part of standard operating procedure?
You'd have to ask the U.S. Marshals about that. What I'm trying to say is that there's a larger issue
you began by saying, Martina, that you began by saying that there is more focus on the action rather than on the procedure. So I'm asking you, was the Italian diplomat strip searched?
You'd have to ask the U.S. government.
Let me tell you the answer. Let me tell you the answer. No. And had the Italian government, official diplomat been strip searched, they'd put you in the same situation that we are putting you tonight. You can't America cannot expect anymore to get away with this kind of rubbish. But Aryama Sundaram, the lawyer from Chennai, is amused. He'd like to respond to you. Aryaman?
Well, I would like to respond because it's so easy to obfuscate issues.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're really talking about here is the treatment meted out to this lady. I just heard this comment about standard procedure. I just wonder, madam, if somebody has lied in a visa application form to the U.S. government, is it normally par for the course to do body searches, cavity searches, tooth cavity, other cavities in the body? Is this par? Is this standard procedure? And if this is standard procedure, then I really wonder how a country which has human rights like that can even comment about human rights of other countries. If that is the standard procedure, I wonder what human rights are there. If I can understand, if you have a grave danger from somebody, to do so, to have a search. But if somebody is on a long-winded investigation into whether there's a lie in a visa or not, a visa form or not, and for that kind of person, if you do these kind of strip searches, these kind of cavity searches, if you treat them like this, well, and then in the same breath say we are worried about human rights in India, I have to laugh, I'm sorry.
And on top of it, Ray, I know, Ray, you want to come in, and top of it, you know, what does America do? It goes on to deliberately undermine the Indian legal system and protect people who are facing criminal proceedings in India. You see, Mr. Pritinder Bharara, whatever his name is under some kind of misconception that he's a global super cop, a legal Captain America perhaps. But you know, he has no business, I'm sure you agree, he has no business saying that we were forced to evacuate the family from India.
No, absolutely.
I think, again, I would disagree with you. I would disagree with you there because it is very unusual.
What? What is unusual?
It is very unusual for the U.S. government to do this.
No,
the U.S. government
unusual.
only intervenes in such a way to evacuate people under very odd circumstances.
No, it's not unusual. You know, unusual is a very soft word, Martina. It is, I would say, immoral.
Here's what's going to happen.
It is immoral and unethical for the American government to do that. Yes, Ray.
They're going to find a way to get the diplomat back to India or out of this problem. This has become a tar baby of massive proportions that nobody in Washington or in New Delhi wants to deal with. It's an embarrassment for everybody concerned. It's obscuring the issue of human trafficking, which happens. It's embarrassing the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's embarrassing the Justice Department. It's a tremendous problem.
No, but what action has been taken against the U.S. Attorney? No, what action has been taken against the U.S. Attorney? How has he been contradicted? Why have the charges against Sangeeta not been dropped? Which U.S. Marshal has been taken to task? What criminal cases have been filed against them? Ray, please understand this. A grave indignity has been carried out and the people of India want retribution for that.
Well, they do, and I understand that. And there will be something that will happen.
Where? When?
It may not be as dire as people in India want. It may not be as dire as the people in the BJP want, given the election that's coming up.
Now, what has this got to do with an election?
This will be resolved.
No, what has this got to do with an election? Why do you bring the BJP into it? Specify, because we have a BJP person, and I'm sure he'd like to respond to you on that. What's the insinuation?
I'm reading the coverage of this in the Indian media, and I know that's happening.
What is happening?
I'm not defending what happened with the U.S. Attorney, but I know that passions are heightened, and that's what happens in a situation like this.
What
happens with things in the United States.
1 minute. I'm a journalist asking you this question, right? I'm not a BJP or a Congress or left member. And I'm sorry, Ray, you must be specific on facts. Your country has made a huge mistake by, joining a group of activists and self-styled attorneys who have decided that Sangeeta Richard is right and Devyani is wrong, completely disregarding the allegations against Sangeeta Richard by Devyani and her sister Sharmishta, who have said that Richard wanted the diplomat to help her secure a green card. I don't have to tell you, Ray, how many Mexicans and Cubans you treat in inhuman ways when they try to obfuscate your process to get a green card. But in this case, I find it interesting that you're over-eager to give this lady a green card, fly her family down. The entire government of America acts like an advocate. Why? Why? What is the intention?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, but then,
and I certainly am not advocating
malice
for her to get a green card.
There must be some malice, some motivation.
This is not malice. This is the rule of law in the United States. When you break the law,
what rule of law?
You are innocent until proven guilty.
What
and then
right,
if you are proven guilty, so let's
no. 1 second.
Let's let this case play out.
No. What do you mean play out? I say here, you bring in a human trafficking angle. I'd say, Martina, with the greatest of respect to you, take back the charge of human trafficking, because the family members of Sangeeta Richard
I never made that charge.
Your government.
I did not make that charge.
You are making that insinuation.
No, the allegations in the complaint.
Your government.
Absolutely not.
No.
The allegations in the complaint are allegations lying to the government.
I am sorry,
what
Martina.
I am saying is that this is taking place in a larger context of labor exploitation.
Martina, I would like to tell you this, that you Americans have messed this up so badly. I'm sorry. Please do not take it like I'm an enemy of America, but you messed it up so badly that the family members of Sangeeta Richard have flown out on a T visa issued by the United States. And you can check your facts. A T visa
Arnab,
pertains to victims of human trafficking. And those who show they would, quote, suffer extreme hardship involving unusual or severe harm if you were removed from the United States. Now you tell me tonight, what?
I work on T visas. It is not possible to get such a visa so quickly.
Well, it was given. That's the point.
Bringing the family over is very,
Why was the family brought over?
In my 10 years of doing work on this.
Why was the family brought over?
In my 10 years of doing work on this, in the United States, I have seen families brought over only 3 times. This is only the 3rd times in 10 years.
No, one second. Now I'll go across at this stage, and Mr. Uttam Khobragade, you are there, and I'm going to come to you in just a minute. But before that, I want Dr. Sheshadri Chari to respond to the insinuation. Coming to you, Sushant. Sheshadri Chari, you can respond directly to the insinuation from the National Security Advisor of USA Today that the BJP and Indian politics has something to do with this.
No, this is a very serious charge that they have made against a political party in India. This does not fall within their ambit at all in the first place. I think Government of India and the Foreign Ministry people who must be listening to all this should take very serious action, and the Government of India should also call the ambassador, US ambassador to India, and register a very strong protest. This amounts to direct unwanted and unwarranted interference in the internal political matters of the country.
Why? For what reason?
As far as the BJP, Congress, the left, and so many other political parties are concerned, the entire political and social structure of this country has been unanimous in condemning the act that the so-called marshals in the US have made. It's a total error on the part of error of judgment and error of active on the part of the marshals.
Ray, would you like to take back your charge on the BJP on this?
In this?
Ray, would you like to
yes.
Ray, I'll give you one opportunity. Would you like to take back what you said about this being political, because our foreign minister is not a member of the BJP, and the foreign affairs cell, the head of the foreign affairs cell of the BJP is directly countered.
Let me address this issue, please.
Pardon me?
Arnab, let me address this. I'm not accusing the BJP of doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that this is a situation that gets into a political context. Just like we see things in the United States, like say the Benghazi attack. It becomes politicized.
You accuse the BJP.
And I'm just raising that as a larger issue.
He directly accused the BJP.
Yes, he did.
I did not directly accuse the BJP of anything, and if that is the impression that I have given,
he did accuse the BJP.
Yes.
So this tack, Ray, this tack.
Thank you.
You see, this tack.
Yes.
Ray, 1 minute, please. Understand this. On this issue, with the greatest of respect to you, you need to understand this tack. Congress versus, that's our business, Ray. It's none of, with respect to you, it's none of your business. And it's not political. Every Indian tonight. Ray, if I open up the phone lines tonight, BJP, Congress, left, any political party members will say that you are wrong and we are right. And there's a man there called Preet Bharara who got it so wrong, he should go back to law school again. But Sushant Sareen wanted to come in on this. Sushant, what's the core issue here?
I agree that the core issue out here, you can say that it is visa fraud and it is trafficking. The only problem is that the person who has been blamed for it, that is Devyani, is not the person who has committed these, either the visa fraud or the human trafficking. The visa fraud has actually been committed by this Richards woman and the people who are helping her, because she was the one who appeared before the consulate officers or the embassy officers and made all those declarations of the kind of salary she's getting and all the misrepresentation which she claims she was asked to do, she did on her own volition. So she's the one who committed the visa fraud, and she's the one who should be put in prison, number one, if at all there is something called the rule of law in the United States. And as far as human trafficking is concerned, there again, I think it's the guys who are backing her case in the US are the ones who are responsible for human trafficking.
Yeah.
Because this is the oldest trick in the book.
Yeah.
That you go on one particular pretext to the US, and then you either apply for asylum, you cook up some kind of a case, you level false charges on people, and there are enough either naive or silly people in the US who get taken in by these sob stories and then help you or do
get immigration. Yes, maybe that's the racket.
Both these cases, I think they've got the wrong person.
That appears to me to also be the most likely racket. I'm sure even Anu Peshawaria, who has...
I'm very sorry, but I have to interrupt here because this is not a racket. The
well, it must be a racket
committed in the United States.
It must be a racket involving American officials.
Are quite real.
No, American officials must be part of this racket. Otherwise, why was the family flown in?
It is absolutely not a racket. In fact, the community here who
you don't like
supports
family being
is
flown
absolutely
in.
rejoicing that the U.S. government has finally decided to prosecute.
No, please, Martina, with respect to, I fear that there is a massive, elaborate and fairly corrupt racket, nexus, whatever you call it, between activists, lawyers, bureaucrats, members of the system out there to encourage this kind of illegal immigration into the United States. How can you rule out the possibility of corruption in your system?
I absolutely cannot. I absolutely cannot agree with you. We have a database of every single case ever filed by victims.
But then if that is the case,
of those cases, more than 20 are filed by people who've been victimized by diplomats.
Martina, if I was an American, appalled at what America is doing, I too, like you, would want to believe that my country could not go so horribly wrong. Unfortunately, in this case, I have the facts with me. And by the way, Aryaman wants to respond, but here's a fact, and let's get the father of Devyani into this. Mr. Khobragade, can you hear me? Mr. Khobragade, Martina Vandenberg says there can be no racket in America. But I'd like to ask you, is it true or not that Sangeeta had sat across a negotiating table with your daughter Devyani? Is it true or not that she made 3 demands after going missing when she surfaced? Yes. She said, I want $10,000 in cash, 1. B, I want a new Indian passport, right? Not the diplomatic passport which was revoked after she absconded. Yes. And is it true or not? You can tell Martina that. Is it true or not she told the Indian embassy officials, you help me get a green card?
Yes.
There you are, Martina.
We were even fined to give $10,000.
The reality here is that when there are cases of underpayment of wages, the U.S. government files a case to get restitution.
One second.
So the money has to be paid
Martina, this is not U.S. government. This is a lady who comes across with a lawyer and indulges in open blackmail of her employer after going missing. I don't know why you're missing the woods for the trees.
That is not blackmail. That is not blackmail.
What do the Americans call it? Negotiation.
We engage in settlement negotiations all the time.
Oh, yes.
Arnab, Goswami.
And oftentimes, when settlement negotiations,
Mr. Chari, Aryama Sundaram,
we file lawsuits.
Martina, you're tying yourself up in knots, but both the politician and the lawyer here from Chennai and Delhi want to counter you. Yes, we'll go to the politician first. Sheshadri Chari.
I tell you, this is pure and simple. In simple English, this is blackmail.
Blackmail.
And you have included a number of persons, but left out one very small, very important element in this. There could be some officers in the U.S. Visa Department who are also involved in this.
Possible.
And don't forget that if we go by the press reports, This Miss Richards' father probably was working in the U.S. Embassy in Delhi.
Was he?
They already had an employee in Delhi.
Yes.
This family was well connected with the U.S. visa procedures.
Well, this is then, you know.
So if you check out on all these, all these records, this issue becomes even more serious. And the most important element in this is the trafficking issue. In this case, it is the U.S. officials who have given visa. It is not trafficking. It is absolute legal immigration and illegal immigration allowed by the U.S. Embassy.
Right now, what we are going to do,
the U.S. Embassy which is in the wrong.
We'll get Uttam Khobragade, Devyani's father, to tell both Martina, Anu in Seattle, Anu, I'm coming to you, and Martina and Ray Locker. Mr. Uttam Khobragade, who's the father of Devyani, will enlighten you about the kind of blackmail that was going on in the precincts of the Indian Embassy office. Within the US Indian Embassy office, a recorded meeting, which the Americans call a settlement, but it's clearly an attempt at blackmail. A fight for justice and a blackmail don't go together. Mr. Khobragade, would you like to tell them what happened?
Yeah, we located this number and that one attorney's office. My daughter went with three council officers. We clearly told, if you don't want to work, you please go back to India. There is a ticket waiting for you. That time she asked, we gave us $10,000 plus normal passport and immigration assistant.
Right.
In fact, we were fine with the $10,000. We clearly told that since immigration assistant we cannot give, because the passport was clearly issued you on the condition that you will come back to India the moment you stop working with us. We can give $10,000 ticket, please you go back. What was her say? I will use her word. एक बार भारत में गए तो US में वापस थोड़े ही आ सकते हैं.
My God. Can I translate that? Can I translate that?
Yeah, that means how? No, I can't go back. I don't want $10,000. If once I go to India, if I once go to India, can I come back to US? I can't come back. So her whole intention was to stay in US, and for that she wanted to blackmail us. When she could not do,
stay back in US.
We went to the court. As far as payment is concerned, our bona fide was presented to the court how much we have paid. She was given a separate room. She was looked after all facility. Every Sunday she will go to the church, then she will go to beauty parlor. She has a developed friendship with the beauty parlor people. Here, as a part payment, I was paying 30,000 in her account, dot on the first. And to cap it again, for their expenses, my daughter used to pay. So much of money we have paid to her. And for human trafficking, she is not a small baby. She is a mother of 2 children who went to the visa officer alone. My daughter did not accompany her to visa officer. She was interviewed by the visa officer who committed the fraud, if at all it is the visa officer and the Sangeeta Richard. What is the role of my daughter there? And they handcuffed my daughter, and this is absolutely atrocious and criminal.
You see, there are such lies which have been put out here. Anu, I'm coming to you, Sushant. You know, layer by layer and peel by peel, truth after truth is tumbling out in this case. Now, I really hope that in this case it is not typical American diffidence one is encountered. Because, you know, diffidence is not an answer, is it, Anu, in this case, given the grievous insults which have been thrown, not just at Devyani, but at your own legal system by those who have carried out this, this entire instance on Devyani. Now, Anu, it is also charged by Mr. Pritinder Bharara that this lady Devyani was trying to evade American law. She didn't try to evade American law. She's a diplomat who is there in the United States of America.
She is not a diplomat. She does not have diplomatic immunity. She has consular immunity, which means she has immunity only for her official acts at work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Martina, see, Martina, it's not my point of view versus yours. But, you know, if you want to go on facts, you'll be on the back foot today. Because on 4 different occasions, and I'd like to ask Mr. Uttam Khobragade, is it true that on 4 different occasions, the Indian Embassy officials and Devyani go pleading with the Americans and the New York Police Department that please do something? Cases were filed. I want to ask you, Mr. Khobragade, why don't you tell Anu Peshawaria tonight, who's going to come next, what action had been taken following the complaints of your daughter?
Yes, yes. We first complained to the New York police. Then we requested the U.S. Embassy, U.S. government, that her visa has been, her passport has been invoked. She is without passport, so please get help in catching her and deport to the India. 3 times we did, so much so that when High Court issued the anti-suit injunction, again we requested the U.S. authority their help in serving the anti-suit injunction on the Sangeeta.
Why?
That thing was done.
No. So I want to ask. No, I want to ask Anu this. Anu, on 5 occasions it is established that the Indian Ministry of External Affairs communicates officially with the US State Department to track down and hand over Sangeeta Richard. The dates are July 5th, July 30th, September 10th, September 21st, December 5th. They get only one reply. There should be 5 replies. There's one reply, and that reply pertains not to the claims made against Sangeeta Richard, but the charges that Richards had labelled against Devyani. In other words, your government decided to take sides on this. I'm asking you, why did your government decide to take sides?
In India on domestic help.
Pardon me?
Divide the way India construes domestic help and the way America construes is completely different.
There is no angle of domestic help here. There is no angle. I'm asking you 2 individuals.
We consider in the United States.
2 human beings.
Consider in the United States that domestic workers are workers and they have rights under U.S. law.
Martina, first of all, Martina, 1 minute. I have issue with you on 2 things. First, you say, 1 second.
I will continue to say Skype is really bad, so I'm just trying to make a point.
Make your point.
That in America, there are 2 issues. I'm not saying America and India both have lapsed in certain ways in this respect. There was messages sent to India way back in September, and this has been issue simmering for a long time. That's what I said last time.
No, but why did Anu, hear me on Anu, take the question. I have just one simple question. Why did the American government not respond to the 4 times that the MEA requested the State Department for assistance? Is it too much to expect a 1-line reply? Why was there no reply?
No, they should always reply.
There wasn't.
I cannot speak for the U.S. government, but the reality is that when domestic workers run away, when they run away.
Martina, how can you say, Martina, first, you say you cannot speak for the U.S. government, but you make all kinds of allegations against the Indian government. I have the dates on which the U.S. Embassy in Delhi is requested for help. I have the dates on which writ petitions are sent to the American government. I have the dates on which the MEA has written back to the American authorities. I have the dates on which the NYPD has been appealed to. Now, why don't you respond at all? Is it a crime to respond to the appeals and the cries of an Indian diplomat?
When someone...
Pardon me?
What you are saying, you are saying is that there were efforts to get this woman kicked out of the country, that there were efforts made. What you are saying is that there were efforts made to get her deported.
What I'm saying,
the United States government is not going to deport
Martina,
that they consider a victim of a crime.
Martina, what I'm saying,
there has been an investigation going on, and frankly, please let me finish.
Martina, 1 minute. Mr. Chari.
The reality is here.
No, Martina. I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. Martina.
The State Department put diplomats on notice that this type of alleged behavior is absolutely forbidden under U.S. law.
Martina, I have issue with you on several things. First of all, you say there is no racket in America a long time back. What was Nixon? The biggest racket I've known. Anyway, I'm not going into that. The question is that all I'm saying, I'm not saying what you're saying.
I don't see Nixon.
Well, I'm not saying what you're saying. I can go back into American history of slavery and all that. I don't want to get into that. What I'm saying is that the US has throughout appeared determined to prosecute this Indian diplomat without giving any credence to the claims she or the Ministry of External Affairs have made. Why? Why?
The United States has a duty to prosecute when there are violations and allegations of violations of U.S. law. The U.S. State Department just briefed the entire diplomatic corps a month ago, told everyone that this is forbidden.
Martina, responses from Delhi first, Sushant Sareen, and then Aryama Sundaram, Sheshadri Chari, coming to you. Sushant Sareen.
Yeah, Arnab, number one, your guests from America are, talking a lot about the American legal system, but this is that same legal system. Don't use the word blackmail, but they have also given the world the concept of the ambulance chasers. So these guys who are talking about human trafficking and all that are essentially ambulance chasers in one way or another. So I don't take, their position very seriously.
We do all of this work
The other
for
thing
free.
is, they keep talking about exploit. Madam, let me say what I want to say, okay? You've had your say. Now, these are guys who talk about all these human rights and human values, but they have one of the largest corporations in America by the name of Walmart, and the kind of exploitation which the Walmart does all over the world, they have these blinkers because, that's billions of dollars involved.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
so,
great. Thanks.
The kind of disingenuity which we are seeing all the time from the Americans and this self-righteous kind of an attitude, I don't think it really washes down our throats. But at the same time, Arnab, we must admit that this kind of American exceptionalism, we have brought it upon our heads, because what prevents us from applying our laws just as stringently or even more stringently than what these guys do to us?
Yes.
But when it comes to the Americans, we tend to take this, this very soft kind of an approach. We should do this. We should give them the
I think
same
the American guests want to respond. I think both Martina and Ray want to respond. Before I go across to them, to both of them, I just want to make a simple point that your country has a great distinction. Ray and Martina, can I have your attention?
Yeah.
Ray and Martina, if I have your attention, your country. Ray, can you hear me? Ray, can you hear me? I don't think they can hear me, or they're pretending not to hear me. I don't know which way it is. Okay, Anu?
I hear you sometimes and sometimes I don't.
Well, I mean, eventually what's happened here?
Depending on convenience.
All those who are building this case against Devyani have ended up getting cornered at the end of a week. Do you think when you look back at this case that you got your initial assessment of the case wrong?
Yes, they have to look at both perspectives. There could be a woman who could be also blackmailing the diplomat, because I've seen that also happening. So in investigation, they have to take that also into consideration.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're saying that today. Mr. Khobragade, that gives you hope?
What is correct, what I can see, as I was telling you, there's a divide in the way domestic help is looked at. The way America considers is that there's always going to be pressure on them. There's going to be involuntary servitude. As the law says, involuntary servitude comprises of human trafficking. That's how they make this a big issue.
Anu, you're making this a case of American values, as if America treats domestic help and domestic staff across the world well. I mean, that's the biggest crying out joke.
What I'm saying is that's one point. And the other point they have to consider is the overzealousness of the Indian domestic people to go overseas. That also is a very important point to consider.
Sheshadri Chari wanted to... I have Ray and Martina back. Sheshadri Chari is making a point back at them. Coming to you both.
Hey, Arnab.
Mr. Chari.
No, we're back.
Arnab, the issue here is very simple. I think we are getting too involved in what a domestic maid has done or not done. The issue is not the domestic maid. The government of India and the entire might of the United States of America is not here to look into the case of one domestic help who has tried to swindle her employer, and also she has taken the entire American visa system for a ride. I think the US Department should accept this. This is in that case, we have lost faith in the CIA and its capacity to hold on things.
Is this simply a case...
Going beyond these points...
Mr. Sundaram, if I can come to you...
really care? Does the American government really think...
Yeah, but is this...
Does the American government even now think that they have to act, apologize, withdraw the cases, and go on with proper, absolute, amicable relationship with
Well, they have a choice.
With India?
They have a choice.
Or does the White House see this as an opportunity to cut off all its relations?
The U.S. government already expressed regret for the arrest.
What is regret?
We need to focus here on...
Regret?
We need to focus actually on what are the allegations.
Regret amounts to...
What are the
Aryama Sundaram is regret enough.
No one is telling
Aryama Sundaram is regret enough.
her family is here Her family is here in the United States because of allegations that they were intimidated in India.
No, 1 second. Martina, I put this. Aryaman is regret enough. The case stays. She continues to be persecuted. There is no action against the American authorities. No action against the U.S. Marshals. Yes, Mr.
Sheshadri Chari, can I get a word in edgewise?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, when you talk about words like regret, apology, etc., 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 let's not just forget what the whole issue is about. Look, I'm looking at it very objectively. Let me just analyze for you very objectively what the situation is. Our lady goes as a maid, a domestic maid to a consular officer. She fills in a visa form. Whether the consular officer and she are complicit in giving a false form or not is one issue. The fact is she is also a party to that fraud. If there was a fraud, that is being investigated. Meantime, there's a case in India which is also being investigated.
If there had been a consular officer doing illegal activity, that consular officer would have been indicted.
Please allow me to finish. At least let's do one thing. Let's at least have each one say. So, meantime, there is a case which has been filed in India much before all this, which case in India claims, and under Indian law, is a case which would be illegal and unlawful in that you're trying to extort or coerce somebody to part with something, and that case is pending investigation. And what is the American reaction? The American reaction is, look here, this is a case of trafficking. Forget the person who was a co-accessory to this whole thing. Forget about her. So this is trafficking. Catch her, grab her in, strip search her, search every cavity, humiliate her. A. B. That's not all. With great pride, the whole family which is being investigated under the Indian legal system for a crime under Indian law is now, quote unquote, evacuated by the United States.
Shocking. That's the most shocking part.
To save these poor, hapless people. To save these poor, hapless people from this inhuman Indian law. Of course, the American law is very human, but the Indian law is inhuman, and the Americans say it's a human rights issue that we should protect these people from the rigors of Indian law, from the unfair Indian law, and I repeat the word, we evacuate them. Who do you evacuate?
Who do you
Refugees?
evacuate?
You evacuate people who are suffering? Do you evacuate people who are being investigated for a crime under a different country? If India had done it to somebody in the United States, the United States would have cried themselves hoarse and would have screamed about it.
Well, I think it's
and yet, this objectively is the situation. Well, I ask anybody to look at this objective situation and say what you feel.
Well, I wish I could just believe that Mr. Pritinder Bharara is a bad lawyer, which probably he is. I wish I could believe he's just incompetent. I wish I could believe that he was not prejudiced and not biased and not just an over-enthusiastic person out here. But the fact is he goes out and actually says we had to evacuate somebody. I mean, who does he think he is, and how can he be issued to issue this kind of statement? What action should be taken against him? Now, for issuing that kind of a statement out here, you're totally disregarding any form of Indian justice. You're aware of it. You're undermining the Indian legal system. You're protecting people who are facing proceedings in India. There is a case in the Delhi High Court on this. Ray, what action in your view should be taken against the people here? You see, apology not good enough. You've understood in this case, apology and regret is not going to be good enough.
Okay, let me go on here. I don't know what's going to happen to Preet Bharara in terms of any kind of sanction. I doubt there will be anything overt. If it gets to a point where it's unsustainable, he may resign. He may take a job with a high-priced law firm. He's in great demand. He's presided over some very impressive cases.
I'm only focused
also involving people from
on
South
how he's
Asia.
messed up. Yes.
Well, look, I'm not going to say he's messed up or not. He sure has in the Indian eyes.
How is
and
he
I can understand from the perspective of all of your guests why you feel that
how
he
is he
has.
not messed up?
And
no, 1 second.
It's not my point to say he has messed up.
Ray, let's discuss this, please. Okay. How do you say he's not messed up?
Okay.
There is a criminal case pending against Sangeeta Richards in India. There's a Metropolitan Magistrate of South District, New Delhi, who's issued an arrest warrant. In spite of all this, the US government says we've taken a position on this. The Delhi High Court of a sovereign country has gone through the details of the case, even quashed Sangeeta Richards' husband's attempt to level counter allegations against Devyani. What you're doing is deliberately undermining the Indian legal system and having complete contempt for the Indian law. And by the way, may I tell you here that when Obama was here in India, he said, you in India have built the institutions upon which true democracy depends. Free and fair elections and an independent judiciary and total rule of the law. How does Obama believe in the rule of the law and you think that India is some banana republic?
I don't think that he thinks that. I certainly don't
obviously
think that.
He thinks that. Otherwise, how do you evacuate people?
Let me tell you why I will not make a judgment on Preet Bharara.
No, it's not about Preet Bharara. It's about the comment he made.
I don't make opinion judgments one way or the other. I try to find out the facts. You have assembled a very impressive array of facts, and I'm not going to dispute them. And I will say that in the eyes of every Indian that has commented on this, I understand why they feel this way.
No.
It's tremendously humiliating.
One minute. I don't know if Uttam Khobragade is still there. I don't think he is on this discussion. But I want to get Sushant Sareen and Aryama Sundaram back on this. The fact is this: there is a prior legal process underway in India. There is an attempt at blackmail happening in Washington. Right? Anyone, even a bad, incompetent, even a bad lawyer will consider it, rightly as the MEA says, obligatory to enable justice to take its course in India in the first instance. America does not own the world.
And justice has to take its course. It has to take its course in the United States. I'm terribly sorry.
What about the justice taking its course in India?
What about
Martina?
When a Taiwanese official was arrested in the United States, the government of Taiwan asked the official to cooperate with the authorities.
No, please, don't bring it. Let me.
I have one question for Martina.
Yeah, go ahead, Aryama.
May I ask Martina just one question?
Go ahead.
Martina, if there was an offense registered against somebody in the United States, which was being investigated, and an investigation is afoot, and India then acted to evacuate the person being investigated outside the United States, saying that, oh my God, they're going to be harassed by this terrible country. The government is going to harass them. The United States is going to harass them. There are no human rights in the country. How would you react?
The reality is that the events taking place in India looked to be retaliation against this victim and her family.
1 minute, Martina.
In this case of visa fraud and labor exploitation.
Martina, that's the most, I'm sorry, Martina, but that's the most hilarious argument. Because by that argument, I can tell you there are hundreds of thousands of cases in India which might, to some incompetent New York lawyer, look untrue. Then why don't you fly in, no, 1 minute, why don't you fly in a truckloads of planes and fly down everybody who is going through Indian justice? Because Uncle Sam thinks that what's happening in India is not right. I mean, this is really an exaggerated sense of
let me say this.
Somebody has.
It looks bad.
No, Sushant Sareen responding here tonight. Sushant Sareen.
Sushant
Sareen. There's an article in the New York Times. There's an article in the New York Times alleging that there wasn't. It's not just about the court case. It's about other forms of retaliation against this family.
Sushant Sareen.
Arnab, this
in the New York Times. There's an article today.
Smacks of a kind of racism and smacks of a prejudice which is so deep-seated in these people that they think, that we are something, we don't know what rule of law is, we don't know how the legal system operates. This is this evil empire which actually oppresses people, exploits people, and these are these lily-white people who always follow the rule of law, always do the right thing, which is clearly not the case. So I don't think we need lectures from this lady or others of her ilk on how the Indian justice system works. Just as there might be many lacunae in the Indian justice system, there are even more lacunae in the American justice system, where the richer you are and the more powerful you are, the better your chance of getting away scot-free. Yeah. And the poorer you are and the blacker you are, the more your chances of getting convicted in a court of law. So, hearing these harangues from her and this prejudging of the situation of how the things will work in India, because this Preet Bharara character thinks that he is the most fair guy and their system is the most fair guy. I think this is
as they say,
unacceptable.
As they say, finally, I'd say one thing. Charity begins at home. And America, according to its own report, just 4 years back, in 27 overseas missions. In 27 overseas missions, American diplomats pay what is below official poverty levels, it is alleged, according to an official report to local embassy staff. Since charity begins at home, maybe the American government would consider giving some kind of a hike to those staff who are allowed to live under official poverty levels while working for American diplomats abroad. That's just a limited point. Charity begins at home. Thank you for joining me on that debate. We're following up with debate number 2 after the break.